Exactly. Yeah. Like to stop defending your limitations, like
arguing for
instead,
your limitations.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what he says. Like, that's what we do so successfully for the first phase of our lives, which is, I think I would say probably for most people, it's more than half. I feel like
I don't ever get out of the first phase.
some people probably really don't ever, or at least because then again, this brings me to a more zoomed out perspective of multiple lives and thinking okay, well, maybe there's a phase 1 through the first however many lives. And then eventually you reach a point where you're ready to turn around and say, I created all these limitations. And that's actually just more proof that I am so powerful. So infinitely powerful. The fact that I could create these limitations and create this super convincing illusion that I'm not powerful, that I'm not God. It's how much does it take for God to convince itself that it is not God? That's what we're doing right now. And, the money example is interesting. Because it's such a big part of the human game. It's very uncommon to be a human playing this human game and to be separated from the money game. There really is not much of a separation. It's very intertwined. Most of us are playing the game, but he says you can stop playing the game because that's how powerful you are. And the more and more you reclaim your power from these eggs. So to me, the more shadow work that you do and the more you step into your own highest frequency, you're aligning with your expanded self. That's create a person to buy your stuff that you're selling. And he says it's hard for me to verbalize what he has to say about the actual busting loose from the money game part. It's really hard to comprehend, but he does describe this busting loose point that once you cross this threshold, he's stop, you don't even look at your bank account numbers anymore because you know that they're not real, and that even by the process of looking and checking, you've taken infinity and you've made it finite and you've turned it into a sequence of numbers. But if you were to just not even look and not even create that in your reality, then it remains infinite. So he's you have to just, what does he call it? Cosmic overdraft protection. So what he calls it is once you cross this busting loose threshold is you fully surrender to and trust in this cosmic overdraft protection, where when you're spending money, what you're really doing is showing appreciation for the creations that you're indulging in. And you go out and you have a really great meal and it costs X amount of dollars, and then you tip really well because you enjoyed it so much and because it brought you so much joy and pleasure and it was just so great. And that's all that money is expressing appreciation. It's just a symbolic, money is the symbol for expressing appreciation, and that would exist without money. We would still express appreciation for enjoying other people's creations and all that good stuff. So he's you just keep on expressing appreciation, but forget the money part of it. That's not even part of the equation anymore. And the universe has got you because you are the universe.
Yeah.
You already created this life. So anything that's meant to be will be, and you will have enough money to do it because it's meant to be.
Yeah.
But it also, it requires he says, once you've reached this point, you're not trying to change or improve anything in your life. You're not trying to have more money. That's not the point. That's not the point, because you've reached a point where that doesn't matter anymore. You just trust that you'll have enough to do the things that you want to do. Because if you feel motivated and inspired to do it, then it's meant for you. And if it's meant for you, the money's there. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't need to act like you have control over it, because technically you don't. And he's saying, his phase 1 involved a lot of business ventures where he made tons of money and then also had the experience of losing it all really, really rapidly, and how you could have the biggest bank account number in the world and it could be gone tomorrow because it's not real.
Yeah.
It's not real. So, I had shared with you the idea of expressing appreciation rather than spending money. And it's, to me, that's a major, if you were to do nothing else and take nothing away from this book, I feel that's a really concrete takeaway to shift that internal language. And if possible, your external language. He does say it's hard to communicate with people when instead of saying pay rent, you're saying express appreciation. People are like, what are you talking about? You know, like, like how much does this cost? You would ask, what's the requested amount of appreciation or whatever for this creation? And so you can at least speak to yourself that way. And you can have, instead of dread, you can have enjoyment and excitement around paying for things, because it's not, you're not losing anything. That's what he really emphasizes. It's like when you spend money, you're not losing anything.
Right. You're trading.
You're trading. You received such enjoyment, such whatever it was, and you're expressing your appreciation for it. And he says, like, once you start doing this, he's like, imagine you go to the casino and you sit down at a slot machine and you put in $1 and it brings you back $3 instantly, every time, every single time. Like, you're going to just sit down at that machine, right? And just keep on feeding it $1 because you know you're going to get $3 in return. And he's like, it's like that. It's like when you start being stingy and you're holding on to your money because you think that you're losing something by giving it, you're not allowing the $3 in return to come back to you. So keep putting in the dollar, and your investment, like your return is going to be higher. Like what goes around comes around. Like not spending money and saving or hoarding money is actually like counterintuitive, I guess, to being abundant.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me of something that my financial advisor was telling me one time when I was asking about the risk in the stock market. Like, it was looking very volatile and just, I'm like, I don't know if I trust that. Like, I don't know if that's what the safest place to put my money. Maybe I just want to save it or move it to like a super low risk investment of some kind. And he's like, actually, super low risk carries a risk all by itself because inflation is going up every day. And if you're putting your money someplace where it's only earning 1% interest and inflation is 10%, then your money is becoming worthless in that low risk spot where you just put it, versus if you put it in the stock market, you have access to a potential gain of 10, 15, 20%, maybe more, depending on what you're investing in. And so you have the opportunity at least to keep pace with the market. Now, whether that all sounds right or wrong as far as like how it should be, I don't know, but it definitely made sense as far as like even low risk options like hoarding your money have their own risk. And Abraham talks about it like air. Like, you wouldn't only inhale. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Like, you would exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. And your money, your bank account is the same thing.
Yeah.
Money in, money out, money in, money out. And like, yeah, that's beautiful that like you traded it because I want this. I got this and I gave away this in order to get it. And that's the part where, yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to get hung up on rent and it's like, that's $1,000 less that I have now. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But like, meanwhile, you're having that panic attack inside your warm shelter and like, you're not homeless. So like, you know, it wasn't a complete loss.
It's like one of my biggest, that was such a big perspective shift for me. I was like, I needed to hear that one for sure, because like, yeah, I mean, like, it's easy to, especially with like rent. I specifically mentioned rent because that's always like the biggest payment of the month, you know, like it comes every single month. It is large. And that's like the more stressful one, at least for me. And it's like, sure, okay, I can totally see where I'm coming from, give myself credit for that, but also haven't been acknowledging what an amazing monthly opportunity it is to appreciate everything I have. And to express, not just to appreciate it, but to express appreciation for it. You know, like whatever requested amount that is, like I'm happy to express appreciation for where I live and for the fact that I'm able to like live in an apartment and like have the things that I have, you know, like that is something to be grateful for. And even like, you know, when you say like be grateful to have like a warm shower or to like have running water in your shower, it's like it's so simple and it's so easily overlooked, but like, yes, that is such a huge perspective shift because that like majorly alters your frequency when you're practicing gratitude for such small things like that. And gratitude is like so high vibration. that's such a high frequency energy to just be in a state of gratitude and receptivity like that.
Well, like I think gratitude communicates to the universe, I have enough.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, you created everything. So basically when you exude gratitude or when you're holding yourself in that vibration, your whole world is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like focusing yourself on purpose on all the different ways that you have enough is only going to breed more enoughness throughout every aspect of your life. And lack is just a reality that we create for ourselves sometimes so that we can learn where true abundance comes from,
Mm-hmm.
I think. So like, as you say, like, you know, rent is my biggest expense and it's the most stressful. And like all of that is like so factual versus like the reality I've created so far sets me up with this payment that every month I go through this discomfort. And now I'm realizing like, let it be fluid. Like I think about my parents, like, cause they're, you know, the same. They just like wake up every day and like create the same life, like decade after decade.
Yeah.
And it's like so many people do that. And yet I think it can change. It is changing like moment by moment by moment. And if we can loosen our perspective on what our life even is, like, it's not real. It's like, it's not that just
accordingly. Yeah.
So we get so twirled up in the conditions and the physical manifestations sometimes that we can definitely lose touch with that.